Hey everyone, welcome to Encounters USA. If it's aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, or Dogman you're looking for, you came to the right place. Now listen up as we listen to some of the latest encounters.
Hello everyone, welcome to Encounters USA. I'm Barbara.
And I'm Matt.
This is a paranormal podcast where we treat Bigfoot, Dogman, and alien phenomena as parts of the same mystery. We are available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on video format on YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about the Skinwalker Ranch, and we have a special guest today. Her name is Alysia Farmer. She will be giving us her insights and feelings about the ranch, portals, Bigfoot, and Dogman. Alysia is a spiritual coach, and she does psychic readings on the side. On our next podcast, we will be talking about the hotspots, so Alysia is going to be a great addition to our discussion today.
All right, Alysia Farmer, welcome to Encounters USA.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Alysia, I know a little bit about you, and I know you do psychic readings, and I know that you are like a spiritual coach. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I started my spiritual journey about 8 years ago when I had an encounter with a spirit in Tennessee, and I've been in contact with Lyrians, extraterrestrials. In the last 6 months or so, my gifts have really started to blossom.
I'm sorry, Alysia, I don't mean to cut you off, but on the last podcast, I don't know if you watched it or not, but we actually, out here in Washington State, we have what is called the EXTRATERRESTRIALS Ranch. And
right.
The beings that are in contact with James Gilliland at the EXTRATERRESTRIALS Ranch are the Lyrians. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So,
Lyrian, what I was told.
So what an amazing connection. And I'm actually still trying to get down there, Barbara. I haven't got that invitation I've been looking for yet, but I'm trying to get down there to see James at the beginning of June. So that's an interesting little angle. And so you do readings, and how could somebody get a hold of you?
You can find me. I have a business page on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Miss Alysia, ALISHAF. And you can get me on Instagram at Raven DeLune. Or you can just look me up on Facebook. I answer almost any private message I get.
Yeah,
okay.
Facebook, she's name is Alysia K. Farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you want to? Okay, so let me jump into your encounter. You had an encounter with more than one being. Do you want to talk a little bit about, because today the topic is going to be Skinwalker Ranch. So do you want to talk about an encounter you had with somebody that might have been associated with this or known something about the Skinwalker Ranch?
Actually, this encounter was very recent. It was actually like within the last hour or so. Barbara and I were talking, and I was getting ready for the podcasts. And the way that my gifts works, I will have beings just come to me. I'm like a beacon. So this, it seemed to me a large animal, like a large wolf-like being. And he said his name was Bobo and that he has been on the Skinwalker Ranch. Now, I asked a few questions, but I wasn't able to get a lot of information because I didn't have a lot of time.
All right. Well, we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. That's really fascinating, and quite frankly, it freaks me out. And I know Barbara laughs at me when I say that, but it really does. So
it's nothing to be freaked out about. It's just something that I think we're heading in that direction, that we're able to have contact with these beings. So it's just thinking about a new way of thinking, new perspective.
Okay, well, we're going to be talking about that in a very short time. But first of all, I think we want to talk about our last episode, and we want to find out what happened with our viewer comments. Any feedback on that, Barbara?
Yes. Actually, we had a couple of comments. I'm just going to read them right now. Watch X-Files. Bigfoot apparition thoughts. You guys are doing very well. I'm proud of you. Signed, John Kuykendall, SFRT. Then we had Crystal Canada. I completely agree with you. I see it plain as day as well. And she was talking about the photo that I screenshotted. Y'all did a very good job on this one. I can't wait to hear the next podcast. By the way, I have been singing Woolly Swamp ever since I found out about the Boggy Creek stick. And then she said, I actually heard of La Push. And it was funny because we actually privately discussed La Push, and it was actually a Twilight reference too. So that was kind of funny.
Oh, you're kidding. Did they talk about La Push in Twilight? Oh, okay.
I didn't know that. She said that. So I was unaware because it's been a long time since I've seen Twilight.
Yeah. For me, it's been like never. So I wouldn't have known that. But it is funny when you go out to Forks, where Twilight is supposed to take place. And I went to fifth grade in Forks, little trivia for you. But when there's still Twilight, it's still hanging on out there. There used to be like half the town was Twilight shops, but now it's dwindled down to about 2 or 3. So it's still hanging on out there. So that's very interesting. So now back to this viewer comments thing. Did you happen to listen to the Legend of Woolly Swamp, Barbara?
I did. And you know what? I've never heard it before. I've heard Devil Goes Down to Georgia and some of the other stuff, but I've never heard that one. So it was interesting.
You're okay. So it kind of relates, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that is great that you finally heard it and you did your homework. And actually, you will be, well, let's go ahead and let's talk about upcoming events. Do you want to go ahead and, do you have your list of what's coming up?
I do. So we have the Alien Expo in Knoxville, Tennessee on August 17th. We have the International UFO Conference September 4th through the 8th. And then we have the Folk Arkansas Festival, which I will possibly be at. I'm not too sure yet because I don't know if I'm leaving Friday or Saturday.
Okay. Now, since well, you're going to go down there, you're not going to be able to see this on the podcast, of course, but you will be able to see this if you're watching on YouTube. And that's a good way to remind people that if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or Google Play or iHeartRadio or iTunes, you can also watch the lovely Barbara and the lovely Alysia and and me on YouTube on Encounters USA. So what I wanted to tell you and give to you before you head out is I made you this lovely sweatshirt design so that when you're down there that you can kind of blend in with the local population. So I'm just going to flash this on the screen. It's probably going to show up right here. And so you can wear that with pride down when you enter Folk. And I'm not sure that they actually have a university, so you might want to be a little bit careful.
Okay, and if I wear this sweatshirt, am I going to be killed by the locals?
No, because I'm sure they value. I'm sure they value higher education, unless, of course, they don't have a university. So then
they're going to Falk, right?
Yes.
Falk has a university about half an hour away called the Cossatot Community College, and that's the biggest one there that I can think of. I used to live in that area, and I'll be going on that trip as well.
Well, so there's no Falk U.
No.
No Falk U. Okay. Well, I don't know. Then I guess it's your choice then, Barbara. But it is a gift. I went out of my way. So
well, thank you so very much.
And if I don't get it,
thank you. I don't know if I'll wear it.
Well, if I don't get that selfie in front of like the town square with that, you wearing that.
I'll take a selfie just for you.
And no photoshops.
Okay, no Photoshop.
So yeah, okay. Well, that's going to be great that you're attending that, and of course, I'm still working on my EXTRATERRESTRIALS Ranch deal. So, there's another thing I wanted to tell you, Barbara, is we were talking last time about the legend of Boggy Creek.
Right.
And I did my homework. I tried to. They don't have that on Amazon anymore. What they have is he's a Bigfoot researcher, and he's like Ken Gerhardt, who's going to be appearing on this podcast. What a nice little segue that is. But one a famous Bigfoot researcher, and I apologize for not remembering your name, but they have one on Amazon about it's like the legend of Boggy Creek. It's something like that. So I watched a little bit of that, and it seems that a hairy beast scared somebody out of their house, and it was a Bigfoot. Now, is that what you're getting?
From Boggy Creek?
Yeah.
I know they had an encounter like that, yes.
Yeah. Well, from what I saw on like the encounter or the legend of Boggy Creek, there was an actual monster, a hairy Bigfoot type individual that came out and attacked these people, and apparently they chased him off with firearms, and then he came back later. So it's pretty crazy stuff. So that's what you're getting yourself into.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, the last time we talked about your husband, it owes you a transponder, I think.
Yeah, he wants me to ping my location at all times.
Yeah. Well, the transponder works, dead or alive. So you might want to encourage that. And you're going to go down there.
Ankle bracelet or something.
Yep. So you're going down there. When is that festival?
That is the 11th through the 15th.
Okay. All right. So it's going to be pretty interesting for you. And I guess I'll just jump into this now. I actually did an investigation of my own last weekend.
Okay. And where was that?
Well, as you know, I live in like the Bigfoot capital of the world. I live in the Pacific Northwest, grew up here. And I did a video, since we're both members of the Sasquatch Files research team. Alysia is also a member, right?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I'm not
because I thought I heard you guys talking about wearing a T-shirt. I thought that's the T-shirt you were wearing. So anyway, we were talking about the Sasquatch Files research team. Well, one of the things, because we do not only Sasquatch, we do aliens and we do Dogman, we have to make sure our sightings are credible. So in Washington State, there are a lot of sightings. I mean, there's like more than any other state in the United States. And I just made a video about how there are so many sightings up here, possibly because people come here with no other intent but to find Bigfoot. So, I hear people talking about, a pine cone fell out of a tree and hit our tent. And, that was Bigfoot, the tree. So I made a video about 2 investigations I did about how they're obviously what I call spurious sightings. And anyway, I went out to a place called Snoqualmie, which is a really Bigfoot hotspot. And I went out and I took a couple of photographs, and I compared them. I went to the actual spot, and I found out that it was an actual spurious site.
Could we make the assumption that if Bigfoot does not actually live in the dimension that we live in, the ones that want to see him are able to see him? If you're intending to see something, surely you're able to see it.
All right, that's what I wanted to hear. So this is the problem, because Barbara had remote viewed the picture, and she had got not necessarily there.
Well, it's more like psychically connecting to the place. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Similar to remote viewing, I guess.
Yeah, but and so I don't think that you're necessarily focusing on the particular image, but you're focusing on an energy, and there are,
right.
I mean, there are tons of Sasquatch sightings in the Snoqualmie Valley, and it is right there. It is the perfect habitat for a Bigfoot, and until recently hasn't been encroached upon by people. So it matches all of the requirements. So I went out and I showed people where the sighting actually took place, and there is some kind of a presence there that Barbara felt, and she also felt the presence of natives, and
yes, and wolf spirit.
So, and I think that that's one of the things that we're gonna find when we do our investigations together, is that you are going to see things that I don't see, and I'm going to, question and be a skeptic on a lot of these things. So anyway, I just wanted to point out to people in this video, and you can see it on Encounters USA on our YouTube channel, that a lot of people that come out to Washington State come out here thinking they're going to see Bigfoot and get some legal weed. And one is easier than the other, but they come out here anyway, and they do want to see Bigfoot. So I see a lot of these encounters, and I just go, oh, really? So anyway, Alysia, any comments, any thoughts about that?
My biggest comment is, and I know I mentioned this before, I believe that Bigfoot is not living on the dimension that we're living in. So we live in 3D. That's scientific. We can see mass, volume, and length, or length, width, and volume. So if we look outside of that box, and people that are psychic and have gifts can see more, and that's why people can see Bigfoot, and that's why people can see other ETs and other things that are living in the area, just not on the same plane of dimension that we are living in.
Yeah, because a lot of people have gifts and they don't realize they have them because they haven't trained themselves to have them. They're brought up to where that's not something that's normal, and so they don't typically visit their gifts until later on in life if they decide to. That's typically what we see a lot in the psychic field.
Right. So, I'm sorry, Alysia, I wanted to ask you, did you see the Guillermo, Rich Guillermo podcast we did, or the videos that I did about Harstein Island?
That was the last podcast. I didn't get to listen
to those. I was busy trying to get ready for this one, but
okay, that's fine.
Catch me up.
Well, I was just going to tell Barbara that I had actually reached Rich Guillermo, and he is willing to come on the podcast. And because Alysia, what Officer Guillermo, he was a police officer at the time, had a couple of encounters. And we talked about this last time. I did 2 field research videos on it because some weird stuff happened. But Barbara and I got into this thing again where I can't really see something, but she and other people can. So that's why this is such a nice little podcast. And if you look at those, it'd be nice to get your feedback as well on those videos. But Barbara, we're gonna Rich Germo and I are actually going to go down to Harstein Island, and we're going to go to another place he had sightings, and he's going to show me the particular spot. So we'll be doing that, and for this podcast and for our Encounters USA YouTube channel. So we're going to have a nice little follow-up on that. And so the Rich Germo encounters are haven't been put to sleep yet.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yes, it is awesome. And since we're talking about what we're doing in the future, are we going to get Ken Gerhardt on here?
Yes, we are going to get Ken Gerhardt. I'm actually talking to him now, and he just wants me to give him some availability dates, and then he's going to pick one, and we'll have him on the show.
Nice.
Okay. Yep. Great. All right. So the topic of today, as we were talking about earlier, Alysia, is Skinwalker Ranch.
Right.
All right. So the first thing that, Barbara and I kind of talked about this beforehand of how we're going to approach this. And, you guys know something about it. I know something about it. So let's go ahead and I don't know if you ever heard the parable of the elephant and the blind men. Have you ever heard that one? Anybody?
No.
Well, there was an elephant, and there were, I think, 5 blind men. And they said, we don't know what this thing is, but each of us will feel part of it, and together we'll come up with what it is. So one person felt a trunk and said it's a snake. And one person felt a leg and said it was a tree. But what we're trying to do is we've all got our own experiences. We're all blind. And we're just trying to put together the information that we found, which is what we do on Encounters USA. So, Alysia, do you want to lead off and tell us what you know about the ranch? And if it's not very much, that's fine.
What I know is from all the encounters that I learned about when I was listening to different podcasts to get prepared for this. I have a feeling that the skinwalkers are just like Bigfoot. They're in just another dimension. And
can you talk about that dimension, Alysia, at all?
I can give you an idea. If you give me just okay. So if there's as I'm sitting here, and as a psychic, as a medium, and a person who can channel, I can see not only in front of me, I can see my grandmother, and I can see a guide of mine, and so the dimensions are just basically where we're at. It's all energy. The energy is just encompassing. We have just like circling all around us at all times. So I see, I can see Barbara, and I can see her guides. I can see you, and I can see your guides, even though you can't see them. They're there. It's like the way that we put faith in God or in Buddha and whatever. The energy's there, even though we can't always see it. I know people that can feel spirits, but not be able to see them. I've only been able to see them outside of myself for probably a year now, and I've been a psychic medium my whole life.
Mm-hmm. But you were going to talk about the Skinwalker Ranch. Did you have any kind of connection or any knowledge about that spiritually? I'm sorry, Alysia, I'm sorry. My question was, and we were talking about, Barbara and I have talked about this many times.
Okay.
What is in that dimension? You started talking about that dimension. And let me just follow that up.
Okay.
The reason that I think, and I agree with you about psychic abilities, but one thing that I think is that we were talking about on the last podcast is that if we go to the moon, then we have a sixth gravity. So we can jump very high and we can do these things. Now, the Bigfoot and the Dogman and these other things have these abilities to do the same things, like they're in much less gravity than they are used to. And that's why I ask you, do you know anything about the place that they're coming from?
Would you be comfortable with her channeling, Matthew?
I would if it's not dangerous, because I don't think they come from a good place. I don't think
it's not dangerous.
It's not dangerous. Okay, who wants to talk? Hello.
Hi, who are we speaking with right now?
Hey, Nikta.
Hi. Is this Ishtar?
It's Ishtar. Yeah. What's up?
Okay, now Ishtar is Lyrian.
Yes, I am Lyrian.
Well, I'm going to say hello to James from the Utah Ranch near Mount Adams, Washington.
Hi. Did y'all
I'm a friend of James.
Oh, I'm in contact, but I'm not always there. I stay in what you would call the southern United States. My area encompasses like Florida all the way to probably Utah and Texas. I'm in Texas a lot.
Can we ask you questions?
Yes.
Okay, then the question is, do you come from another dimension?
Yes, I do. A higher dimension from you. I'm at 12 is where I'm at.
Okay, well, our inquiry today is we're talking about the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. Do you know anything about that?
I do. We you have what you call skinwalkers, right? The wolf man looking thing. It's a cryptid.
Yes, but I want to know, and I'm not so much concerned about a skinwalker itself. That's just the name of the ranch, and it's how people know it. But I want to know, the question is, if you come from a different dimension, and Alysia and Barbara and I think that these Bigfoots and these Dogmen come from different dimensions, we want to know about the dimension from where they come.
Okay. Nekta, do you mind if I give you over to Beak? This is more suited for him.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, if anyone's wondering, Nekta is my Lyran name.
Okay, so y'all want to know about what's coming into or how it's coming? How are we doing this? Or what's in the dimension, right?
He wants to know how and why these things are coming. So how are they coming through and why?
Well, portals are open everywhere. There's portals not only, and people accidentally open portals all the time. Kids play with spirit boards and don't know how to close them. Mirrors can be portals. And you can't close every portal. So they're coming through portals that we haven't been able to close yet. And not every not everything that comes through is good. Not everything that comes through is bad. Okay. These are beings that just want to live their lives for the most part, but sometimes, and in Terrence's case, and Terrence is another guide of Alicia's, and he's a friend of mine, you get knocked down a few dimensions before, because things come up, rules are broken, or you're trying to find a source of something. You're going to Earth to find something, a source of food or a resource or a person to interact with. But we're able to move through these dimensions because we're mostly energetic beings. Not everything is black and white. You get where I'm going with this?
Yes. Can I ask questions now before you continue?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I talk a lot.
No. So you're saying that things are coming through these portals and they're searching for things, right? Okay. So how? A number of questions that I have is, why would they be searching for things here, and why do they need to come through the portal in the first place?
Well, if a UFO dropped on your property right now, would you freak out?
No.
You don't think so?
I wouldn't. No.
In general, most people we're not in the place where most people would immediately want to call the police or something like that, but there is a protocol in place that humans have set up. So we go through the portals, through the dimensions, because it's safer, if that makes sense.
Yes. Now, can I ask you this? Are the conditions in this dimension, like on this Earth, do they influence as to how many of these portals exist, and how many beings are able to access them?
I don't know that I know the answer to that question. Give me.
What I'm saying that is if everybody, if right now it's like everybody seems to be, there's a lot of evil and a lot of hatred and things going on. And I just wonder if that does not actually open up more and invite more basically evil to travel through these dimensions.
Evil is not the word I would use. We don't work on that same good and bad system that you do, but there is a way to people using negative vibrations vibrating underneath what humans normally vibrate at, makes it easier for there to be attachments. And then portals can open. If portals are not closed, if some kid is playing with a Ouija board and doesn't close the Ouija board, then there's a portal open. There's a portal open if someone, just messes around with it, messes around with just reading and, trying to, there's a lot of teenage angst is what we're getting, mm-hmm. But there's a lot of good too. I think that your world is shifting to a better, higher frequency, one that's more of a light. It's just getting there. It's going to be kind of rocky.
Okay. Barbara, do you want to ask any questions or?
I just speak.
Hi.
Hi. I like Beak. He's really upbeat. Beak, as far as Skinwalker Ranch goes, what they consider the paranormal activity there, what do you consider that?
I consider that beings trying to, and living in that dimension or living in that area, beings are just trying to live. There's some aggressive wolf things out there, but not all are bad. Like I said, not all are good. Terrence might want to shed some light on this, but if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine if you want to switch over to Terrence.
Terrence? No. Okay. He's not okay with it right now. But Terrence is a Anunnaki, and he looks over cryptids and looks over those things that are in the higher dimensions than y'all are.
Okay. So you don't know what the paranormal activity is there. Is it just beings that are trying to coexist with the people there, or what exactly is it?
I feel like it's beings that are trying to coexist. And there is what you would call paranormal activity, spirits, attachments, but that's anywhere. If the veil is thin, then you're going to have more activity.
And so do you think the veil is thinner there, and why? Why would it be thinner there than anywhere else? Why are they having more activity?
Right. There is the geomagnetic thing. It's something to do with your grid. Like, you understand what I'm saying? What do y'all call it?
Yeah,
lines.
I know what the grid is, and so ley lines, that type of thing.
Right. And there's definitely powers that be that like the Skinwalker Ranch and like that area better, so they'll go to where they're familiar with. Like Lyrians, we tend to go to the East City Ranch because it's in Washington. It's in a very good area that our frequencies can just pop in and out.
Because the frequency is higher there.
Right.
Okay. And more light.
More light, yes. And there's a lot of that happening that we're seeing. I don't know if Matt understands this, but there's like there's Lyrian commands all over the world, and I'm able to move in between those because I'm kind of a communications officer. And we're building and we're gathering because I feel like because places like Skinwalker Ranch and the East City Ranch, that the earth is going to be moving to that more higher frequency where we're able to coexist. We can all coexist.
Can I jump in here and ask a question? First of all, the entity you were talking to before, would you give them my regards? I didn't get to say goodbye.
Oh, I will. Right.
And to the entity that you're speaking with now we are. Our topic for the next 2 days is we're going to be talking about East City Ranch is one hotspot, but we're going to be talking about hotspots throughout the United States, basically.
Right.
And we'd like to welcome you back to the next podcast if you would like to come. We are going to be talking about Washington State. We're going to be talking about the San Luis Valley in Colorado. And we're going to be talking about Pennsylvania and New York.
Right.
So So we'd sure like to have you back, because this is basically just we're a jumping off point for hotspots throughout the nation.
Right. I've been to Sedona. I've been to New York. I don't like it very much. There's not a lot of places to fly, but I have been to New York. I am more than happy to come by.
Okay. Well, fantastic. So we'll hopefully see you on Friday then. So I thank you very much for your time and for talking to us and giving us the information that you have. And the next thing that I want to cover now is for the people that are listening to the podcast, and I'm wearing earbuds and they keep going in and out. So sometimes I can hear you and sometimes I can't. But anyway, I just want to very quickly, Barbara, could you just jump in? And for the people that are listening that might not know about Skinwalker Ranch and what went on there, can you give us just a brief little rundown on what you know about it?
Okay, so the family that owns Skinwalker Ranch, they originally bought it, I think, in the 90s, and they started having experiences right off the bat. Their first experience was with a wolf, and it was more like a dire wolf. Like, it was one of the really, really high back wolves that are extinct, or supposedly extinct. And it came up to them, let them pet it, let them snuggle with it, and then it went after one of their calves. So the father shot the animal, and it did not affect the animal at all. So he asked his son to go get a different gun, one that would take down an elk. And he went and got the gun, and they shot it a couple more times point blank, and it still did not fall. And they followed it as it walked away, and the prints disappeared, and so did the animal. They also had another encounter where the mother went food shopping. She put all of her groceries away. She went to the bathroom, came back, and all the groceries were back on the counter in their bags. Then there was another instance with 2,000-pound bulls, where I think they had either 4 or 5, and they were in a corral, and they were discussing on their way out of the ranch to the store, how awful it would be if they had lost these prized bulls. So on their way back home, they were driving past the pen, and these bulls were gone. They jumped out of their car. Well, he jumped out of the car. She stayed near the car, and he went to go search, and they were in a container that was locked. 4 2,000-pound bulls crammed in a container that was locked from the outside. How did they get in there? And there was cobwebs in there and everything. And as soon as he yelled to his wife that he had found them, they kind of sort of woke up, and they started getting very angry, and they kicked out the door of the back of the container. Another instant was the husband was doing post digging with a post digger in the field, and he looked down to wipe his brow, and next thing he knew, the post digger was gone. He looked up, and it was just gone. And they found it some 40, 50 feet up in a tree, like a day later. So these are just some of the instances that have happened there.
Alysia, any comments about any of this stuff?
I don't think Alicia's with us right now. I think it's still Beak.
Okay.
Because I can tell.
All right. All right. Well,
you want us to get Alysia back?
No. That's fine. She can.
Okay.
Alysia, do your thing. All right. So,
do you have anything to say about those instances?
Are you asking me, or are you asking Alysia?
I would think I would think that the cattle would have accidentally walked into a portal and probably got dazed, because sometimes it happens. People walk into portals too. So maybe the cows just got dazed, and they were able to get into this one little spot. I feel bad
when
for
they
them.
reappeared. Mm-hmm. So that would make sense, because if they walked into a portal and they came back, they didn't end up in the same location. Is that what you're trying to say? They ended up in the container.
In a different location. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna throw something in here, and Alysia, I assume. Well, I don't remember the name of the person we're talking to, but we're not talking to Alysia, correct?
Beak. My name is Beak.
Beak.
Yes, like a beak.
Okay. Oh, that's easy enough to remember. Okay. Well, the two things I want to ask you then. Barbara talked about they had chased this wolf off, and it was basically onto a creek bed where there was sand, and then the footprints just stopped. Where
Right.
it walked into another portal, or it walked into another dimension. I'm sorry.
I would assume that it would have walked into another dimension. Probably walked into the next one up from y'all. I think that cryptids and like Bigfoots are probably in the 4th to 5th dimension.
All right. So just tell me what you think of this then. That
Okay.
I started off by saying that I think they come from a place where gravity is much stronger. And that's why
Right.
they're able to do these physical things that they can do. Is that correct? I mean, if you were on a bigger planet in your other dimension, you would have much stronger gravity.
That is true. Gravity here is stable enough, right? And then, so if we're all in the same, realm, and they're in the same realm, just a little bit higher, I would assume that they're, how do I put this? I'm sorry, sometimes English doesn't come well to me. We would assume that their gravity pull may be bigger, or lighter, as it were, because there's words are failing. Give me a second. So, say maybe they're in the inter of the Earth. Gravity would be stronger there. Would you not think?
No.
Like inner, what are you talking about? Inside the Earth?
Like inside the Earth. Inside
No
or
way.
right above?
It would be steady. It would be steady.
Because when I see people move through dimensions, or beings move through dimensions, I can see them going in sometimes, and I can see them going out sometimes, like out of this area.
Right.
Okay, and I can see them going into somewhere that's in this area, but further down.
Okay. All right. So, Beak, let me ask you another question then. I'm still looking at the idea of portals and moving in and out. Now, if these, some people like your Lyrians, and I assume you move around in ships, and you move interdimensionally through ships, but these things don't. So are they? I mean, I don't think they're living on a 12th dimension like you are. So how come they're able to move in between these portals by themselves, and you need a ship to do it?
Because, Lyrians come from another planet. Okay. I'm not from here. Y'all have a lovely Earth, but Lyra is in another star, a close star system. But so we need a ship because we're coming from another planet. They don't need a ship because they're close. Their dimension is closer.
Okay.
So what planet are you from?
I'm from Lyra.
All right. So then here's the next part of my question, because some people say, and I'll give you one example of one of the things that happened there was that the farmer, the rancher, and his wife were branding their calves, and they had moved off like a couple hundred yards. They had branded this calf or put the tag on his ear, and then they came back. They hadn't heard anything. It was a bright, sunny day, and the calf looked like it had been dropped from a few hundred feet. It had been one of its legs was ripped off. The meat was gone, and all this happened while they were just 100 yards away in this field. So, the thing that when these things happen, in some cases, they always report that there is a mist, right? And I try to look at things scientifically, and what would create a mist? Heat and moisture, right? So it is my belief that because of all the sightings of mist when these things happen, that there is an element of heat involved, and basically that's it, because that's physics. We can understand that. So there were a number of occasions where people were watching and things happened because of mist. UFOs come out of mist. Strange vehicles, strange beings come out of mist. And is a UFO dropping something off?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Not all the time.
Question.
Yeah.
Okay.
In this instance with the calf,
Mhm.
what would have done that to that calf, and how would they have taken it or not taken it, but done what they had without being seen or heard?
A cloak. There would be a cloak involved. And
Okay.
sometimes time in your dimension does not always guarantee that the time in our dimension is the same.
Yes, I've heard that. I've heard time doesn't exist in the dimension. So that makes sense. Okay.
All right. So, Beak, I still have, I'm still not sure I understand your answers. So this is what I know. Barbara said what she knew, and you've talked about what you knew, and Alicia's said a little bit about what she knows. But from what I know about this, and let's go back to history. The Skinwalker itself is a result of a curse that I think the Navajo put on the Utes, because the Navajo were chased off by the Utes or whatever, or betrayed by the Utes with the whites, something. But they put a curse on them and on this valley, on the people who lived in this valley. So that Skinwalker thing that is a native, it's a native entity, and it's basically something that changes shape. And so I would assume that's why they call it Skinwalker Ranch. So everything that Barbara said, that's all the stuff that I know. And the only thing that I want to add to that is that I don't remember the Gorman. I shouldn't say their name. I guess I don't know their name. I thought their name was Skinwalker.
No, it's the name that they used was Gorman, but that's not their real name.
Oh, good. Then I can use it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So they sold it, and they sold it to Mr. Rich Guy.
Bigelow.
Right.
His name is Bigelow.
And then in, I think, 2006, or whenever he sold it to some alphabet agency. And they're still doing research on it now. Now, from what I've heard from like George Knapp and the people who talk about it and the people who wrote that book, is that what they've come up with is that, and they put out, and they use this example of these video cameras they put out. Mm-hmm. And the video cameras were dismantled, right? The exact core, the exact electrical connections were pulled out, but there was no way to approach these cameras. But they think that there is some entity that is intelligent, and it is, I think I want to say, not benign, almost malignant. And it is that entity that's living on that ranch, and it is that entity that this alphabet agency is right now studying. And speaking of alphabet agencies, I have this feedback in my ears. I'm sure this is all going somewhere in the NSA. So, okay.
Well, no, the feedback is probably the energy coming from both me and Alysia together.
Well, it's coming from your beauty. That's where it's coming from. Well, bouncing off.
It happens a lot when we're on video together. We have there's energy between us too. So, because we also vibrate at a higher frequency. So,
well, I'm getting
feedback.
yeah. So, anyway, but yeah. So to sum up that, there is an entity that is living there, and they're studying it now. That's what I think they're doing now. I think they're studying that entity so that, of course, they can find out where it comes from and, of course, weaponize it.
Right. And that's very, I really wish that the humans would stop trying to weaponize, but whatever, that's just the thing that y'all do. Not, like I said, not everything is good. We are... Can I speak to you, Barbara?
Yes.
Okay. So and you know this, we have an alliance, Lyrians do, with Pleiadians, with the Syrians from Syrian A and Lyrian Syrians. We have an alliance with other beings, as y'all put it, that are they're trying to keep the negative entities away. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, because
I have also had contact with, and I've told Matt this, the Lyrian Council, and they haven't been back to see me, but they told me that they wanted to talk to me. So I'm waiting for them to contact me back. But so I know that there's different councils and all that stuff.
Right.
I'm sorry. Can I jump in here? Beak, you're a Lyrian, right?
I'm Lyrian Avian. Yes.
All right. Can you get a message to James? I keep sending them emails. My wife and I want to come down there in June. Would you get a message to whoever's talking to him and tell him to get a hold of me?
Sure.
He's got my email, but we need to find out pretty soon if we're going down there. Otherwise, we're going to Glacier Park.
I will pass it along. That's my job.
I appreciate that. And if I hear back, then I'd certainly will thank you, Beak, personally.
Yes. So the council, Barbara, I'm part of the council. I'm part of the High Council. I'm just kind of usually in the wings. When we first came to Alysia, she was shown the part of the council that she will be working with, and she's able to sit in on some of our meetings. And I'm hoping that she will listen to us and start talking about this.
Yes, I know she's been a little shy about that.
I'm sorry, I missed something. Talking about what?
Typically, when you're contacted by councils, they want you to talk to the general public about why they're here. And what their mission is, and they want to help spread the word about that mission. So it's like a collective type of thing. We're the collective, and they want to get a message out to the collective about why they're here. They're here in peace. They want us to raise our vibrations in order to get to that higher level or dimension.
Okay,
Am I
that's
correct,
exactly what James says.
Yeah.
And Alysia has one of those voices that is very down home, as y'all would say. She's very, very approachable, and she would be a really good asset for us if she would just listen.
and she doesn't like typically to. She's very nervous on camera, so she I get what you're saying. She's told me she's very nervous to do stuff like that. So I'm sure we can talk her into it, though.
Do you mind if I give her back? I'm being called back.
Yes.
Thank you, Beak. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm going to listen to him. It's just,
Well, Alysia, are you back yet?
I'm here.
Yeah, all you can't tell. She's like, her demeanor is different. Her voice is different.
Well, I'm new to this stuff. So yes, welcome back. So, Alysia, we were talking to Beak about Skinwalker Ranch, and he was telling us this esoteric stuff. But what do you know anything? Like, we talked about the bulls, and we talked about the calf that was whatever, and we talked about the dog.
The calf that was like pulled up into the air and then fell down, but they couldn't see it, and it was like 30 minutes in between time.
Yep.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Yeah. So what do you think about my theory about all these things happen when there's a mist?
I'm kind of scientifically minded too. That's what I went to college for.
Exactly.
If something's coming to Earth, okay, even if it's coming from in or out of the Earth or from a different dimension, there has to be a heat signature, and maybe it shows up because they don't want. I can see the cloaking. I heard Beak talk about the cloaking, but I can also see it might be their heat, their body temperature might be higher. So we are actually seeing sweat or something to that effect. If it's an entity, if it's a UFO, that's out of my, I would say more it's because they're trying to cloak.
Okay. Well, Alysia, this is, I'd rather have Barbara say this, but this is basically what the opinion that we share on Bigfoot and Dogman and whatever is that they're basically they have some kind of psychic connection, and they're somehow related to these UFOs and whatever. And my thing is that I wouldn't be saying any of this stuff if it weren't for the Skinwalker Ranch and two very, very credible scientists working for the government that said we saw a portal open and we saw either one or two of these like dire wolves get out. They didn't say Dogman. They said dire wolves. So my idea is that, well, if it's there, then there is a portal because somebody's seen it. So if it's there, it's someplace else.
Right.
So that's why this whole conversation is taking place is just about these portals. So the next time we talk, we're going to be talking about hotspots, which of course are also one of the portals. Alysia, I want to give Barbara you back to Barbara, but Barbara told me last time what a portal is, and could you tell me what it is just in your terms?
Well, okay. So I take a different approach. I feel about the same way as Barbara. I take a different approach to it because I have a different religion. I'm a Wiccan, practicing Wiccan, and portals open to allow in my religion. Portals open to allow gods and goddesses to help to come down to earth. I believe that portals will open and from different dimensions. I don't, sometimes they're opened on accident. I've opened one accidentally. It was not a good time. I was like 14. I just feel like mostly portals are here for are coming forth, that we're seeing them more often because the veil between our dimension and the other dimensions are thinning. And that's why we're hearing more about this. We're hearing more people come forward, more people are more open-minded, and they just, so I think that we're heading to a place where we're able to rip the veil, as it were.
So that's something that I keep trying to track down. So you said that the veil between our dimensions is growing thinner.
Right.
Why is that?
In my opinion, I believe more people are taking a jump from more rigid standpoints as far as religion and how they believe and how they see the earth. And they're taking a more spiritual path. Not that people that aren't religious can't be spiritual. I know many a spiritual religious person, but I think people are starting to come to a point, and you'll hear this a lot in like new age groups of Christ consciousness, that we are one with the source. We are one with Christ.
That is exactly what James says. You guys have got to see my interview with James.
I haven't seen it at all.
Huh?
Yeah,
well,
and
that's
because
exactly.
we're all made of energy, we are all connected.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're starting to realize, because we are all connected, all the energy is starting to connect. And I think it's like thinning the veil.
The veil starting to thin.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you? Do you think, is there something good coming, or is there something evil this way comes?
It's not. There's a lot of solar stuff happening too that's affecting people and how they are. A lot more people are waking up because of this energy that's coming down from the solar flares, I think.
Right.
Well.
And I think I can safely say for myself that instead of it, there's a lot of good coming. I will say that. But if you have that feeling of like a knot in your stomach about something, I don't necessarily believe the whole good evil thing. But I do. If there is good, there must be evil. Okay, there's a balance to everything. So I personally believe that if there are good ETs, or if there's good beings, there are bad beings. And if the bad beings come, I believe people like me, like Barbara, people that we call light workers, will be able to steer people into a direction that we don't follow the bad. Just because and I say this with everything. If you're going to believe something, do your research before you take a stance, because there may be really bad things wrapped up in really nice packages.
Right. Like the Lyrians have, we've gotten messages, mostly Alysia. I haven't gotten any yet, but to stay here, and they call Earth Gaia. So they say stay here. I guess there's beings that are negative, and they will try to come here, and they are taking people use discernment. We've been told to stay here if and when something does happen. So,
right.
Wow. You know, I hate to do this again, but another. I talk about this in my book, Deceptions of the Ages, and I talk about it's about the connections between Mormons, Freemasons, and extraterrestrials, and that's exactly correct. That there are evil extraterrestrials out there. And there are certain organizations like the Freemasons and the Latter-day Saint Church that know very, very much about them and are actually dealing with them. And that's why you see a lot of, or most of the people in the UFO litany of like the people doing the cover-up, they're all Freemasons because they know that if they don't keep their secrets, then that will be they'll have a bad demise. So anyways, that's in my book, Deceptions of the Ages, but it's exactly what you guys are talking about. So I can't let it go without throwing in that
little plug.
Yeah. Now listen, speaking of plugs, I want to plug Alysia. I want to say something here that Alysia, and I hope Beak is not going to be offended, but when we talk, I mean, you have a lot more information, I think, than Beak does. You seem to elaborate. A little
He's very direct, and he doesn't. English is not his first language.
Yeah.
So,
when he talks to Alysia, Matt, he talks in. Is it clicks? It's like
Beak will talk in like clicks and and like sometimes he'll go ooh because he's kind of a bird. So like I get clicks and coos.
And so
I don't know what it is, but I hear that in my. I don't know what that is. Can you hear that on the? Are you hearing that also? Not now, but when he was talking, you could hear that on my iPod, on my earpods.
Energy, yeah. His signature.
That's weird. Wow. No, I could hear. I was going to ask you, what is that noise?
Right.
It was his, yeah. Because what happens is this is what happens. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alysia. He's talking to you in the clicks and the coos, but you're deciphering, and he's trying to find the right words in your dictionary, so to speak, to talk.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy process for him.
Ishtar is better at talking. I wish Ishtar would have talked a little bit more. I think he was a little nervous.
Yeah, he wanted to hand you off. He wanted to hand it off to Beak right away.
Yeah.
Okay, but you understand, I'm hearing these noises. I don't hear them now.
Right.
That I've never heard. They were weird. And I thought somebody was doing something to my earpods. Or to the connection or something. So anyway, well, that's really unusual. So can we plug Alysia? I think we've got just a few minutes left. And Alysia, I'm kind of absent-minded sometimes. So before we go, I want to make sure people can find you. And you're at facebook.com/Miss ALISHAF.
Yes.
Miss ALISHAF, and Instagram at Raven DELUNE, right?
Raven DeLune. Yes, that's my Instagram handle.
Okay, and then you're on Facebook at Alysia K. Farmer.
Right.
Yep. All right. Well, this has really been interesting. Barbara, do you have anything else to add? Before we actually do that, what's next show we're going to do hotspots.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And Alysia, are you going to come back? Are you going to be?
I'm able to if you want me to.
I certainly would love to have you back. Yeah, because we're going to be talking about the ones that we're going to be talking about Colorado. We'll do Sedona, I guess, but we're going to talk about Washington, and we'll talk about New York and upstate or Pennsylvania and upstate New York.
I will try to get Terrence to talk about Washington. I'm pretty sure he's there a lot.
Okay, great. And try to get him. I need that invitation from the East City Ranch. I don't, I don't like crashing things, So anyway,
I would love to go to East City Ranch.
And I just want to emphasize here. Do you see that Barbara and I met because she has this connection? They want her to appear at their council or something, right? So she met me, and then I talked to you, and then Beak is going to go back and talk to James, or have his people talk to their people. So we're having like an interdimensional, intergalactic, SMS service.
When me and Barbara met, a few weeks after we met, I started hearing and seeing Lyrians. And then I started talking to Barbara about it, and I can see her form as a Lyrian. I can see my form as a Lyrian. And I can see all of our friend circle that we're in, that we were all Lyrians together at one point. So it's really interesting.
Well, I was when I was talking to James, I was told one time after I wrote my book, Deceptions of the Ages, that I am a Pleiadian.
I can see that.
Well, but James said I'm not, and I can't remember what he said. I'm not a Pleiadian, though. I'm something else. Okay.
Right.
What?
Anyway, I don't remember what it is. You have to watch the interview. Books and watch my interview. And anyway, but all right. Well, I think that that's going to be a good place to tie it off. If you are watching this podcast, would you please go to YouTube and hit that subscribe button, and go to iTunes and leave a nice comment, and do the same on YouTube. Barbara, any parting words?
No, thank you, Alysia, for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Yes, Alysia, thank you, and thank you to Beak. And I don't remember the other person. Ishtar. How hard? Okay. I hope he wasn't behind that movie. I hope he didn't invest in it. Right. So with that, this is Encounters USA, and we'll say bye to Barbara. Bye, Barbara.
Everyone.
Bye, Barbara.
Bye, Alysia.
Bye.
And this is Matt, and I'm saying, if you're out in the woods, please
watch your back.
Watch your back. Come on, everybody together. If you're out in the woods, please watch your back. Do it again. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Watch your back. Everybody get on the short bus. We're going home now. All right. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that's it. That is a wrap, ladies. Thanks.
Everyone jump on the short bus. Thanks for that.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like a bunch of idiots. Can't even get it together. Okay. So I will have it. I will have the podcast up in a few hours, Alysia, and I'll send you the link. And then
all right.
I have a question. You do editing. If we all did it right now and recorded the ending, could you edit it in?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do it again?
Okay. Okay. So I'll just where do you want to go? You just want to do the watch your back thing?
Yeah.
Wherever you want to go. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So so I'll just lead it, and then I'll do you'll know. All right, everybody. Well, I guess that's going to be a wrap for this show. So, as we say at Encounters USA, when you're out in the woods, please watch your back. One more time. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Watch your back. Like talking to 3-year-olds. I think we got the.
Well, no, seriously though.
There's a delay. There must be a delay because you guys could not possibly.
So just watch your back, because we can all do watch your back.
Right.
All right. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Watch your back.
How can you not go after 3? All right.
I think
that's
there's
it.
a little bit of a delay.
We're done here.
Okay.
Bye, you guys. Bye, Alysia. Thanks.
Bye. Anytime.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to tonight's show. Please remember, if you've had an encounter, we want to hear about it. Go ahead and email us at encountersusa1@gmail.com or contact us at encountersusa.com, our website, and go to the contact form. All right, everybody. Until next time, be careful out there. And if you're out in the woods, watch your back.